Hello everyone, I'm Manelle and I am going to show you today how to get some really smooth, flat watercolor washes with your watercolor paint. I've been working on an illustration that is Regency World plus dragons, and in another video I showed you how I did the inking for the picture and gave you some tips on inking. And this video is going to be about getting some flat watercolor washes. So the goal with this picture is to make it look similar to this person, Mr. H.M. Brock's work. As you can see, it's an ink line with really flat color, and I believe he did the it's not watercolor. He did the color with some kind of tinting process. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to create kind of a similar feel with watercolor today. So first I'm going to show you the process of how to get the nice flat washes, and then we'll paint the painting, and I hope you like it. Okay, so I have here a piece of hot press Arches watercolor paper, which is the same kind of paper that I'm going to use, or that I'm using for the painting. Before I start, I just want to talk a little bit about paint. If you are trying to get a super flat wash, you got to make sure you're using the right paint. So Daniel Smith has these paints that, here's the package. They are meant to do these cool effects and, like, if you can see on here, spread around and make these cool textures. We don't want that for this. So most watercolor paints are going to be pretty good at doing it flat, but if you're trying it and it's not working, maybe you have something like this that's meant to be a little more textured. And each color that you use is going to act a little bit differently on the paper. So I'll show you a few of them. I'm going to use three I don't know how you say it, Schmeike brand paints today. I'm gonna do a wash with ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and burnt sienna. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is a silver black velvet number 12 round brush that I'm going to use. So for this technique, you want to have a pretty good sized puddle of water. Hopefully you can see this over here. Especially if you live in a dry climate, which I do, you want to make sure you're getting a really good, you have quite a bit to draw from as you go down. The other thing is, if you can see, like, my paper sitting on this board is at an angle. I have it propped up with a couple of wood blocks. If you have a nice easel, you can use that too. But you want gravity to help you out a little bit with this. Okay, so I think this is going to work. So you can see I have this big puddle. And over here on the page, I'm just going to make a swatch, and my brush is pretty soaked. There's a lot of water in here, and I'm going to put it on, and as it goes on, you can see that it creates a bead at the bottom. So this is called painting with the bead. So you want to keep that there. As long as that bead is there, you can pull the paint down, and it's kind of an active surface. So you can see as I go, it gradually gets pulled down, and it's not making any lines where the brush strokes are going. So it's making a nice flat sort of wash. And you can see this paint does have a little bit of a texture to it. If my bead starts to get a little bit not wet enough, I go ahead and load up my brush again. And as you can see, like, the water doesn't run down past where I put my brush. It stays where it's supposed to. So basically wherever the brush hits and it gets wet, that's where the water is going to go. So you don't need to worry about it running all over the place. So you can see up here it's making a nice smooth flat surface. Let's try the other color of paint. Let's try alizarin crimson. Oh, one thing, if you get to the bottom, you don't want this to dry darker than everything else. You can sort of suck it up with a dry brush, dabbing it on the paper towel. Just suck it right up. And that's going to dry really nice and smooth. So you can see how much of that puddle of water I used as I was going through. So we're going to do that again over here. Get a nice big puddle with a lot of color in there. And again, I have my brush good and soaked. On it goes. There's my bead. I can just pull it down. Load up with more water. Or paint, I guess you could say. So you can see that just pulls the paint right down. So pretty much anytime you're painting a painting and you need to do a flat surface, or you're doing an underpainting or a background sky where there's not a lot of clouds or something, this is the perfect thing you can do. Suck this up. Suck it up. Everybody, just suck it up. Okay, that might have not been too funny. Okay, now burnt sienna. So you have to make sure you have a big enough puddle of water, otherwise you're either gonna run out of water in the middle and your bead is going to dry and make a line, or you're just not gonna have enough wetness on your page to make the bead beady enough, wet enough. Okay, there's my puddle. Right, so there's those 3 swatches. So you can see how nice and smooth this blue one is drying. It's looking pretty good. And I also want to just show you what happens now that this is partly dry. If I go back in, so if I come back in right here with my blue paint and I try to continue on, you can see how it makes that line right there. So now when it dries, the wash isn't going to continue, it's going to have a line. So you want to plan out pretty well in advance where you're going to start and stop, so that you don't get that if you're not trying to. So I hope that's helpful. I'm going to go ahead and set up the painting now and we can start painting. And yep, thanks. right, I hope that was useful for you, and maybe gave you some ideas of what you can do with your watercolors and what to practice. And if you're curious about what's happening in this picture, you can read the story that goes with it online for free on talesfantastic.com starting October 3rd. And if you're a patron, you get it early, which is September 28th. So if you want to read it sooner, become a patron. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them down below, and I'll get back to you with some answers. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Thanks. Bye.